Hey everybody, Derek here. Thanks as always for stopping by. Today, I wanted to talk about a classic for Black History Month. Let's get right into it. All right, guys. Today, we're talking about 12 Years a Slave. It's kind of blurry there. By Solomon Northup. What an incredible book. I think this, if I didn't give it 5 stars, there must have been something wrong with me in the moment because yeah, I think this is a 5-star read for me. I just got through reviewing Ibram Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning, and while I would say that's the centerfold of Black History Month for me, as far as personal biographies, I guess I should say, or memoirs, this takes the cake, and it's a classic along with another one that I read a few months ago, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. I think these books should be required reading. They came as a box set. I showed you in another video here recently. It's called In Their Own Voices. It's got a number of first-hand histories here, like, again, Solomon Northup. It's got The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. It's got The Underground Railroad by William Still, and it's got something about a slave girl, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, I think, was the other one. And then Booker T. Washington, a book that he had published. So, 5 really good books, and I'm getting through them. I'm almost done The Underground Railroad by William Still. But this was the last one that I had read. I'm kind of bouncing between novels and classics and nonfiction, so I'm getting a really good smattering here of Black culture and Black history. 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup is a really, really heartrending story. Like, this is, again, I liken The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass to Holocaust literature. It gives you the feels, man, like nothing before. And you really understand, like, people know what happened. People know the story of slavery, yes, but people don't understand the nitty-gritty tiny details of living in a slavery republic, a chattel slavery system. It's just horrendous. It's kind of the same thing with, because I always talk about Palestine, right? And I will always talk about Palestine, whether you like it or not. Talking about the realities that Palestinians have to live under now. It's, you can say blockade, for instance, over Gaza, or you can talk about cantons and Bantustans in the West Bank. You can talk about checkpoints. And that communicates, the proximate problem here, why there's a conflict. But it's all the little details, for example, that, written into the Oslo Accords, that Palestinians are forced to sell Israeli produce first. It's little details like that, which are not so friggin' little to people living it. It's life and death, because it's their farms, then it's their businesses that they're selling out in the interest of their oppressor. It's those little things, though, that we have to entertain the entire story. We actually have to read books. We have to consult people. We have to argue with people to finally get these truths out there. And then finally, we can understand what the reality is actually like. And that's the kind of thing that you get when you read Black literature. This is why we need Black History Month, I think. This is my opinion. I completely and strenuously disagree with that very popular video that's been weaponized by the far, actually I would say the center right nowadays, of Morgan Freeman saying, I don't need no Black History Month. Black history is American history. What should we have a Jewish History Month? I say, yeah, maybe we should have a Jewish History Month. Maybe we should have a Palestinian History Month. Maybe we should have 1 month dedicated to just researching the history, everybody's history. That would be a valuable thing, because white history is what's implied by the absence of its acknowledgement. That's a fact. You don't have to go to very many bookstores and look through the history section to get the impression that, everything that's ever happened in the world happened to white people, happened to Europeans, happened to Americans. And these more oppressed, marginalized groups, their stories don't ever get heard. But there needs to be some pushback. Anyway, we've spent a few minutes on that and haven't really said much about the book. But man, what Solomon Northup had been through is just devastating. So he was a free man at the outset. That's where the book starts. He had a family. I think he had 2 kids. I could be wrong about that, but he had kids. And, struggling financially. And he was sort of talked into doing these jobs which involved a bit of travel, and they had to stop off at the notary or something and get something verified with his papers. Well, as it turns out, they swindled him. They drugged him after that appointment, dealing with the papers, and he got sold into slavery, and he couldn't escape for 12 whole years. And just the most brutal form of slavery. First he talks about the one plantation owner that was indebted to, you could say, a more humane plantation. Although we're talking about degrees of terrible here. He was so brutalized by this one guy, can't remember his name. Eventually he had to flee because he wouldn't take a whipping that this drunkard plantation owner was going to inflict him with. And so he turned the whip on his master. This was completely unprovoked. The guy just went into a rage, and so Solomon Northup turns the whip over on the guy, and they come back just about ready to lynch him. But then there was some intercession by this plantation owner's lender, and so he was protected, but things didn't stop there. He was consistently persecuted. This all happened within a span of like 2 years. And then he ended up on another plantation for the other 10 years, which was not much better. Of course, the guy wasn't out to absolutely kill him, not until the end. He eventually escaped after 10 years. And I think what's so horrendous is, you don't just get a sense of the lost time, but you also, the friends that he lost by leaving these plantations. Of course, he didn't enjoy slavery at all. There was nothing about it that was enjoyable. But you build friendships in this new life, and now you're pining for those people, and you feel terrible for the oppression that they're living under on the plantation that you used to be on. And at least this guy had a case to make that he was a free man, but these other people, they didn't. They were slaves from the get-go, and they had no way out. And his passage to freedom, I mean, both attempted passages to freedom. The first one after that incident where he turned the whip on the plantation owner. But I'm also talking about how he had to throw himself out into the wilderness and living in the shadows and taking your chances with the alligators and the bugs and the rattlesnakes and all the rest of it. Not to mention the enormous legal battle that was fought to regain his freedom at the end. The man, it just like at the end of it, he just like, what was that? Was all of that worth it? Just to go back to your old life, which was not exactly easy either. Of course, it was always better to be out of slavery. You certainly feel for what that man had been through, and just so valuable that this had become a bestseller, not too far off from Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'm reading, as I mentioned earlier, The Underground Railroad, written by William Still, and it's full of sort of abbreviated versions of this story. You're dealing with the tiny excerpts of epistolary. But 12 Years a Slave is very much like reading a letter in The Underground Railroad and then getting the actual story. And that's so cool, because that every last person mentioned in The Underground Railroad by William Still had a story kind of like this, and some of the brutal aspects, again, that you don't really get the details on unless you read this stuff, like, children being sold out from under their parents, their mothers. That would just drive you to unspeakable madness. In fact, there was one account in The Underground Railroad where it talks about a woman going literally insane, not being able to speak for an entire month because she lost her child, sold into slavery right out from under her. You can't even comprehend that kind of heartbreak. Read this, guys. If you want some recommendations for next Black History Month, don't even wait for Black History Month. Just read it. It's incredible. It'll make you feel, man. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, I hope you liked this video. If you want more like the one you just watched, click the suggested video on this screen. Make sure you subscribe, and to connect with me on my other platforms, my handles are linked below in the description, alright? Take care, peeps. Till next time.